So it was December of 2019, and I went in for a rather invasive dental procedure. And so, par for the course, I required some sedation. And as I was being sedated, I started to have this really unusual feeling. It was almost like I was breathing. And as I was breathing, I felt my body lift up and come back down with every breath. And there was this pressure that was starting to build up inside of me. And at the time I thought, this this doesn't feel right. But I had never gone under a procedure like this before. So I just thought, oh, it must be the medication, and dismissed it, didn't say anything. And all of a sudden I had the sense of I popped. It feels like I felt like everything shifted. And I had this moment of panic for just a second. And the next thing I know, I am looking down at my body and I'm up in the ceiling. And the very first thought I had is, what am I doing up here? And I'm looking down at myself and I'm looking at the scene and I went, oh my God, am I dead? And with that knowing, it's like I had this shift in awareness because it felt like I could think, but it was a different type of thought. It was a different type of thought process. And as I had this awareness of the fact that I'm in the ceiling, at the same time, I realized, wait a minute, I said, I'm up here. I didn't say I'm down there. Like, why am I down there? I said, why am I up here? Meaning what I identified with was whatever this part of me was that was up in the ceiling. It wasn't the me that was down in a chair looking down in my physical body. And I had this epiphany. It was like a lock and a key. And I just went, wow, we aren't our bodies. And with that, I flipped upside down and I'm like inches away from the ceiling. And I recall to this day that I saw all the texture of the ceiling like it was under a microscope. It was so detailed, all the little dents and grooves of the ceiling texture, because it was so close to me. And then like a lens that closes over a camera, it kind of felt like, I like to say I blinked, although I didn't have, physical eyes, and I was gone. I left the room. When I opened my eyes or the lens was removed, it was this indescribable connection. It was this bliss, this oneness, this feeling of completion. But what's so interesting about it is that this feeling of completion is, I could only describe it because I can refer back to it now from the physical experience. While I was there, it was like there was nothing else but to be that way. There was nothing that was lacking. And so in this place, I call it the void because there wasn't anything there. It was emptiness. And while that sounds like it could be kind of a bit intimidating or it could be scary, the feeling was anything but that. It was a feeling of comfort and serenity and peace, and unlike anything that you can experience in this physical body. And I like to think about it now as like this rich, buttery, comforting blanket. And even though it was like a void, it was a void of anything that wasn't complete. So it was like everything that was there was absolutely complete. And I had this growing awareness that I knew everything there was to ever know in the whole universe. And what was interesting was in this place, there was no time. So everything was happening in my awareness at the same time. It wasn't, we can talk about it and I can talk about it linearly, like this happened and then this happened. But in the experience, it was all happening to me at the same time. And as I was becoming aware of this knowingness, I realized that everything there was to ever know in the entire universe was available. And now I think about this in such a way where if I were to try to describe it, it would be as if you could download the entire internet that had ever existed from the beginning until the end of time and just have it in your knowing and your awareness, and you can access it instantly. And as I started to connect to this, it was like I had started to develop like a 360 vision. And I was seeing through the eyes of every single living thing in every single moment from the beginning of time through eternity. And I say beginning of time like in the figure of speech, because there was just no time in this place. And so I could see through every single point of time, every single experience, every single what I call a soul, because I don't have another word for it, but every single living entity. And it was a part of me, and I was a part of it. And so there's this oneness that is available, or that I experienced, that it's not like we get to experience here. You know, we connect with friends and family, and we feel like we have these really close relationships, and we might meet people that feel really, really familiar to us. And we get this sense of like we've known them before because we almost feel like we're a part of them. There's no difference between me and my pets, or the plants, or the planets, or the solar systems, or the entire universe, or all universes. And our understanding of what is beyond the physical compared to what I connected to is we haven't even scratched the surface. We just haven't even come close. And what I felt was in this all-knowingness was that there were no questions. As much as I felt like I was, trying to figure out and get answers to everything I had ever wondered in some way, shape, or form in the physical body, I couldn't ask a question. I could only be curious about something. And by being curious about it, I could shift my awareness to the experience or to the understanding that would give me the answer to that curiosity. And in this place, I understood in a way that I can't explain from a physical perspective, but at this knowing, this pure soul level, that there is no good or bad, that there is no right or wrong. And as I say, there are no lessons to learn, that everything that our soul or this other part of us is really aiming for is to experience. And particularly in the physical life, is to experience physical experiences through the physical body. And as my awareness was growing, I felt like it was accelerating. And so as I became aware of one thing and understood it in my own consciousness or in my own soul, it lent me to be curious about more and more and more. And so it was like this rapid fire curiosity that just kept bringing more and more into my awareness. Now, at this point, I could not tell you if I was gone for a second or if I was gone for 30 minutes. Honestly, it's impossible for me to say because there wasn't time. But in that place, it felt like infinity. It felt like there was no end to who I was as part of this oneness. And there was no end to the oneness. Like the oneness continuously expanded endlessly. And all of us are a part of it, that part of us, that soul level. It felt like we all have that connection and we can all be connected to that. Definitely, it feels like when we pass over and connected to that through the part of us that's inside of our physical bodies now. At some point, the dentist, he did something, and I remember it was this weird thing where I felt like I had a foot in two worlds. Because he leaned over me and he touched me on the shoulders and he said, "Are you okay?" And I came back, but I came back with just like a foot in the other side, and still in my awareness in my physical body started to awaken. And I opened my eyes, and all I could think of was, no. I want to go back. I want to go back to what that was. That was so amazing. There was no pain, no suffering, no feeling of the physical body, this connection to absolute knowing. I want to go back to that now. And I was grasping, like, I felt like it was like having sand through my fingers. I was trying to hold on to all that knowing. I didn't want to lose it. I wanted to bring back everything that I had just connected with. And as big and complex and unbelievable as, knowing everything there is to know in the universe or universes, I brought back one very, very clear thing from that experience. The fact that our physical bodies are like a sensory tool for our souls to gather information on what it is like to have a physical experience. Everything that our physical bodies are interacting with, it's collecting sensory information. It's like it's an instantaneous connection to our soul, and it provides that understanding at the soul level. And that there is no getting it wrong in this life. There is no decision that you can make that is going to impact your ability to connect to that love and bliss and that oneness when we get to the other side. That was what I felt so clearly when I came back. And that our sensory experience here on the physical is really to help the soul understand how to have a soul experience or how to have a physical experience here. And I've been asked a number of times, like, why would our soul want to have a physical experience? And I can get into that if you'd like, but it felt to me like there was more to the story than what we know now, based off of where we're at in our physical evolution. But I felt like that feeling of connection to this other side has stayed with me to a certain degree. Like the doors just like cracked open just a little bit. But the experience in the physical since then has been very clear. It's very different here in the physical from a soul perspective than what we can connect to in this all encompassing blanket of oneness on the other side.